Lynn, this question comes from someone in Washington who's associated with one of the think tanks and is also a writer for one of the major national magazines. And she says, Mr. LaRouche, I have to say that when you first said that Obama's healthcare policy was a Nazi policy, I was startled. I couldn't see the wisdom of it. And every time I walked through the streets of D.C. and saw your organizers out there with those signs of Obama with a Hitler mustache, I winced. She said, but the fact of the matter is that just last week, in a discussion with me, I was given a copy of an article written by Zeke Emanuel that was published in The Lancet. I should say that a week prior to that, when I read Mr. Singer's article in the New York Times, I was appalled. And I found the article morally reprehensible, but it was nothing by comparison to this piece by Zeke Emanuel. And the fact is that there is no possible way that he could raise the excuse that this was a past policy, since the article appeared in the January 31st, 2009 issue of The Lancet. I tried to get my editor to print a hot link to this article. He refused. And I'd like to take this opportunity to ask you to please make it available on your website. If you can't print the article, then please print a link to it, because I think that it is indispensable for people to understand the nature of this administration. Around the same time that I took up this issue, I was appalled to find out that John Holdren has taken the position of White House science czar. As a journalist in Washington, I should have known this. The fact is, I didn't. It went right past me. For people who are not familiar with Mr. Holdren, let me just say that in the 1970s, he was not only a protege of the crazy Professor Ehrlich and his wife, but he also co-authored a textbook that discussed coercive population control. At the time, I was not someone who could have been called a feminist, yet I was so horrified by what he was proposing that I became active in the feminist movement to try to fight these policies of proposed coercive population control. It also came to my attention later on that Holdren was a participant in some way in the authorship of National Security Memorandum 200, which is now rather famous. My question for you is this. Fine, this guy got in under the radar. I missed it, and so did a lot of others. But my position is that the fact that he was a proponent of coercive population control should disqualify him as a serious voice on science. She said, I work for a liberal magazine. I'm a liberal, I admit it. My friends think that I have lost my mind. But I find this absolutely appalling, and I think that other progressive groups have got to take this up. It is morally reprehensible, and it seems to me to prove the point that you made several months ago, that this health policy had Nazi elements to it, and that, in fact, it was not a mistake.
No. It's obvious. He was a mistake. Holdren was a mistake. And somehow the birth control thing got whacked up, and he got born.